And welcome Team Elite to the next episode of Elite Perspectives. And I'm telling you, I have an incredible episode for you today. One of my favorite guest speakers. You're going to love this. But first, as you guys know, the purpose of this show is so every week, Wednesday, I'm bringing you the industry elites. I am bringing you the big dogs in different industries. And today, I got a really good friend of mine, Nick Davies, and let me tell you guys about him. Nick is a business coach, and with over 20 years in the financial industry, he's originally from London, England, and he's lived and worked in so many areas, including the Philippines, Florida, New York, but now he's here in North Carolina with me. This is where he currently calls home, and over the last 4 years, Nick's kind of taking a little bit more of a transition to where he starts seeking out his purpose. And now he's actually been trained by Tony Robbins, and he's working with a bunch of you guys to coach you so that way you can live a life on purpose. So I couldn't have anyone better for you than my man, Nick Davies. What's going on, brother?
Hey, talk about an intro. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Hey, 20 years in banking, the finance industry, it makes me sound old. I heard that, I was like, wow, that makes me feel old. Hey, I appreciate you. That was a great intro. Yeah, it's
21 years old, so.
Yeah, started young.
Awesome. Fresh out the womb.
Yeah.
Finances.
Get it done.
But this is cool, Nick. I'm excited for everyone to hear from you. I already know you're going to bring value. I know that's your mission. Your purpose is always to bring value. For you guys, man, I'm excited for you guys to hear from Nick. He's one of the most genuine guys I've ever met. You know, it's cool. We're actually at a networking event, and it's a bunch of people going around, and just, I don't believe anything happens by coincidence, but me and Nick were actually able to connect, and throughout that whole group of people, it kind of was like me and him like the whole time. Anytime I met somebody else, or he met somebody else, it was like we were meeting them together. So
yeah,
it was super cool. Right. We clicked from the start, but I kind of want everyone to hear from you and learn your story. So the first thing I got, Nick, I want to know, who is Nick Davies? Who is the kid Nick? And how did he grow up to be the Nick that you are today?
Wow. Yeah, those are super cool questions. Who am I now? Now I'm business coach. I'm husband. I'm father. I'm lover of people. I'm about adding value through relationships. Like a lot of those things just feel to me so much. I get so much energy from that stuff. That's who I am now, and it's so interesting to think about it, about where I was, where I came from. And you hear a lot of people with stories of success through being in difficult times. And I was thinking, like, well, did I really have difficult times? But I guess it's all relative, right? Because the ones that jump out of that, the crazy stories about people being in depths of despair and not having anything and rising to the top, and they're really great and inspirational. But I think everyone's the same, because everyone has their struggles. Everyone comes from that place. And when I was a kid, I just had zero confidence. Like I didn't have anything. I grew up just outside of London with my mum and dad, my brother, who's 4 years younger than me. And at school, I wasn't really the popular kid. I was kind of the fat kid, and I didn't really know what I was doing. Everyone seemed to have much more figured out than I had figured out. And I just kind of bounced my way through high school. Couldn't stand it. Didn't like it at all. Had some bad times. It was never about, for me, education. It was just getting through it. Like, how can I just get to the other side of whatever it is and just start being an adult? I was like, I always wanted to be an adult, like hanging out with people that were older than me. And like when I left high school, when I was 16, my dad took me to the city of London to look for jobs. And we were just like, he said, let's just go and knock on doors and see what's available. We did, and I got a job running deal tickets from baskets that all the takers would take these deal tickets, throw them in a basket, and I'd run them over to the traders. I loved it. I loved it because I was around adults. People would treat me like an adult, and that was great. It was so cool for me. And then at the end of the week, they give me money for it. I was like, I'm onto something here. This is like, what's up with this? And I started to, during that time as well, I started working out. I started lifting weights, and my confidence slowly started to grow. I really started to thrive in that environment of tons of energy. And that was like 99, 2000, around the tech boom bust era. So it was super busy. A lot of people gravitated to that environment, and it started to build from there. And I was in that financial services industry for a long time, and worked for a couple of different banks, one for 14 years or so. And it's interesting to see the path now. At the time, I just didn't know what was going on. It was like that. This is good. I'm going to start to follow it. But if I look back now, I can see the themes was around the people side. And I ran teams when I was really young, people that were older than me, generally speaking. And there's some things, Jeremy, that just seem so obvious to me. To others, it didn't seem obvious to. And I just dismissed that at the time for no reason. Or I didn't think about it. I wasn't really aware of it. But if I think about it now, it's just, well, people have different perspectives, right? People have different skill sets, and so that now I can see that. And so that was definitely a theme. As I went through my career, at a certain point when I moved to the Philippines, you mentioned that already. I moved there after 2008, 2009, when things went wrong. Interesting to see, right, where we are right now in 2020, what's going on. The milestones I've already given you are like the 99 tech boom, 2008 crash, as we are now to this big, huge global event. And yeah, I quit and went traveling for a while, came back, lived in the Philippines. And when I lived in the Philippines, I was still working in financial services. I started to ask myself those questions. What is happiness about? What do I want from life? What's available? What do I want to do when I grow up? If I had $100 million or pounds in the bank, what would I do? And it was from that like genesis of that question is why I'm up talking to you here today.
Nice. All right, so I have some other questions I was going to jump into, but I gotta come up with one right off the top of my head. I have to ask: you put $100 million in your bank account right now, what would you do?
This is what I worked out I wanted to do, and this is the point, right? It's the psychology of it is that if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? Right? Okay, well, probably you do some celebrations. Maybe you actually reset and you'd help out your family, you'd help out people that are close to you, and then when it all calms down, what would you do? Because most people are thinking about, well, I'd spend it. I'd sit on a beach and drink cocktails all day. Like, no, you won't, because that won't be sustainable. Because when I first asked myself that question, what would I actually, if I had $100 million, what would I do every day? What do I love to do? What makes me happy? You know what the best I could come up with was?
What's that?
Go to Vegas and drink with my friends. Like, I loved hanging out with my friends, and I was in my 20s then. I wasn't married. Like, it was just me, but that's what I could come up with. And I was like, well, that's stupid. Like, I can't do that. Like, that won't work. But the point is, whatever you would do after you get past that process of having the initial fun celebratory time, you have to do something else. Especially if you're relatively young, you don't have to do something else. So what would those things be? And once you define what those things are, let's take a shortcut. Let's not get the 100 million first. Just start doing those things. And then you can move it from being, okay, I'm going to achieve and then I'll be happy. You can just move to happily achieving.
I like that. Happily achieving. That's good.
Yes, sir.
Good. And everybody listening, if you guys aren't taking notes, make sure you're taking notes. There's a lot of good stuff he just mentioned. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And there's this thought that goes in people's mind that once I achieve something, like, that's success. Like, if I make X amount of dollars, like get this promotion, and they see this physical, tangible thing, as success, but really success is in the pursuit. Success is in the journey. It's the day-to-day living the purpose where you really feel the fulfillment. Because we could give you $100 million and it's just like, oh, I got $100 million. Like, yeah, you're going to be excited, but that excitement is going to wear down. Now, who are you when the emotion's gone?
Yeah.
You know, being in the journey, having that character development, having that purpose, that interaction, that actually getting to change people's lives. That's where the real feeling of success will come in. And it's super cool because people that get to really experience that are coaches, people in the trenches working with people, taking them from point A to point B, and just leading them down that path. You know, these are the type of people that really get to experience that hands-on. But in your words, Nick, I want you to tell me, why do you feel coaching is so important?
Oh, man. If I had to boil it down to a couple of things, I would say number one, it's awareness. We don't know what we don't know. And by the way, I feel like right now where we are, like in our environment around us, a lot of the stuff has been stripped away. And what's funny to me is that all these different cliches keep popping into my mind. I'm like, now is the time of the cliche. Bring the cliche back. Cliches are there for a reason. It's in times like this that cliches are born. Let's keep going with the cliches. So it's like it's comfort zone. It's going back to the basics. It's keeping things real. Like it's doing what's most important. And so it comes down to that awareness, and we don't know what we don't know. Another cliche that's what made me think about it. So if I'll give you that example of thinking through my life, I can only see those things now. I didn't have anyone along the way. I had mentors, I had people around me that I respected, but I didn't have anyone really to dial that in and be dedicated to me to hold that space, or to share with me the necessity to hold that space, to gather that awareness of where I really was and focus on what I have done well, because we can only build on success. It's so easy. Like the default of our life is the erosion of things around us, not the explosion. The default is the erosion always. So you need to be focusing on what's gone well so you can build on it. So that awareness portion is so important. You need to know what's going on. Open up the hood and find out what's there. So that's number one, why it's so important. Number two, it's the feedback loop. So let me give you an example here. So when I was working in the corporate world, I used to love going to the events. They would have someone come in and facilitate a course for a day or a couple of days. I used to love that stuff. Course on presentation, situational leadership, all that type of stuff. I loved it. And there was one moment, and I did a lot of these when I was in the Philippines because they were pretty new, and we would support Hong Kong and Tokyo in the business there. And I remember talking to this facilitator then, and I was like, that was great. How do I know when I have all the tools so I can be an effective leader? How do I know? And of course, he couldn't answer my question because there is no answer to that question. You can't, it's not even about the tools. Like it's important to have good tools or good strategies, of course. But if you haven't got the mindset, it doesn't matter how good they are because you won't execute. It's not about focusing on the tools. It's about focusing on the principles and understanding. And so when you have those sessions, it was great 2 days, then within a week, I'd forgotten 90% of it. Within 2 weeks, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have any reinforcement. So here's the part with coaching is it's the continuous feedback loop. Like you learn up front, learn a lot of stuff, and continuing the feedback. Because we all go through these cycles in our life where we're motivated to get something done. We set ourselves out. A lot of us set goals. We achieve those goals, or something comes along the way that kind of knocks us off course. And it's the time that you spent knocked off course is what impacts our lives. Think of it like going up a hill and suddenly there's a little gap. If you don't jump over that gap, you fall down into that gap. Now, it's not the falling down into the gap that's the problem. It's how quickly can you climb up the other side. And so you want to learn to get back to where you were, get back on the horse, as it were. Another cliche for you. Well, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up, right? To give it a boxing reference, right? Another cliche for you. So the key in life is that feedback loop tight. And that's what coaching does. You're on the phone with your coach every week. He's keeping you honest. He's calling it tight. So where are you? Did you do the things you said you want to do? How did it work? What adjustments can we make? Congratulations for doing those things. Awesome job. What's next? And if you can compress time, my belief is that we can get more done with coaching in a quarter than you can get in a whole year. Think about that. So thinking rather than in 12 months in a year, we're thinking of 12 weeks in a year. Set up your goals, get super pumped up about them, make them real, put it into action where the rubber meets the road, and then hit that for 12 weeks. You can get more done than most people will get done in a year. And think about the compound effect of that. I can get 4 times more done in a year, 8 times over 2 years. Think about that over a decade and over your life. And it's not just that. It's not just those numbers, but it's the compound effect. Because if you're getting that all squeezed into a quarter, a whole year's worth of progress, how amazing are you going to feel? What a different level you're going to be at. Because if you thought that you could be a millionaire before you started to do that, and you cranked all that out in 12 weeks, you're going to come out on the other side and you'll be like, "Where's the first 10 million?" Because so the compound interest is massive. That's what I think the most important things are about coaching, is that awareness and that tight feedback loop.
Awesome. That was powerful. That was powerful. And I know a lot of people listening, you could easily listen in like, well, he's a coach. He's going to make coaching sound like it's this big thing. It's super important. But most people don't realize how important it is. You know, look at anybody successful. They've all had coaches. They all had mentors. And what he was saying about that exponential increase, that compound effect, is serious, because if it is like, oh man, I can get 4 times more done, then it's like, man, one person could take a year and this person could achieve in 4 times that in 1 year. Then you think, oh man, it's going to take this person 4 years to get to where this person was in 1 year. So the next year, this guy's like 7, 8 years ahead of you. But you have to realize it's like, yeah, but also not just the growth of what they achieved, the learning curve that's associated with that. Because now they've been able to make those progressions mentally, to where mentally along the way, they're making those corrections and those adjustments. So it's not really 4 years, because the improvements along the way are also exponentially increasing. So really after that first year, they might be 8 to 10 years ahead of that person just naturally. But also you have to look at the compound effect on the other side of the coin, because while one person was guided throughout that year, the other person wasn't. So they're making mistakes, and if they're not able to learn from those mistakes and have that feedback, like Nick was talking about, while one person is going like this, the other one's going the wrong way. So in essence, the other person that had the coaching could end up 15 years ahead after that first year, because the other person's just off target. Think of it like a plane. Plane has its course, it's going. And if it's trying to get here, you have the coach that can lead you here. But without that coach, you can just be 1 degree off. So instead of here, your trajectory is like that. As you go, you end up way off the mark. So the coaching aspect of everything is just super cool. And I know me and Nick, outside of the business world, used to be in coaching. I know you also have a background in martial arts.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. What's your martial arts background like? Why do you feel it's important and things like that?
I feel like any sort and by the way, it's like, thank you for underscoring those points, because it just blows my mind. Yeah, because if you don't have that awareness from coaching, then you're not going to see what things have gone well. You're more likely to focus on what you haven't got, and then when you're more focused on what you haven't got, you're less likely to take big action to get in anything more.
Mm-hmm.
So as you say, you're going to go even more off course.
Yeah.
Not just the difference of having that being guided, but just that exponentially both ways, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, martial arts. I feel like health in general is like a microcosm for thinking about macro version of coaching for your whole life, because I derive a lot of baseline principles from working out. Like, it was always, I mentioned that I started lifting weights when I was about 16, and that was a big part of my life. That's all I did until I was mid-20s. I was always interested in martial arts, and there'd be points in my life where I'd be like, I really want to do it. Why haven't I started? And now I would easily coach myself and just say, it's not important what you do. Because I was like, there's so many different martial arts. Which one should I start? What happens if I start the wrong one? Right? And as a martial artist yourself, you know it doesn't really matter which one it is. Right? And so if I could go back and tell myself that now, I'd be like, just start. It doesn't matter what it is. And of course, that's a great principle for everything. It's like, if it's the wrong one, then you'll find out quicker. And so the result for me was I didn't start martial arts until I was in my late 20s. I did some Krav Maga for a while, which I enjoyed. And then when I eventually moved to the Philippines, I was big on boxing there because of Manny Pacquiao. And I used to live in this little luxury bubble. Like a 10-minute walk in the morning, there'll be this pub, and above the pub there was this boxing Muay Thai gym. I used to go there at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was the Philippines, so it'd be bright sunshine, burning hot already, overnight at 6 a.m. And a lot of the coaches, the trainers, they would sleep in the gym. So I'd go in the morning, like flick some of the lights on, get some more light in there, and the trainers would be asleep on the mats in the ring. Amazing. So I started training boxing, Muay Thai there. I loved that because it was super cool because I could get one-on-one training for super cheap, and couldn't understand much of what was going on. Their English was way better than my Filipino, obviously, but I still couldn't understand what's going on. But it was a great experience to do that. And then when I moved to Florida, I started doing Muay Thai 3-4 times a week, and I got up to a level 1 certification in Muay Thai. And I think it's so important because there's so many lessons there. Like I said, it's like the principles of what you do. All you've got to do is start. And it allows you the discipline, which applies to every other part of your life. It allows you to the baseline of applying everything. You have to have a strong foundation. So I think that's why any sort of working out is important. Martial arts, because it has different facets. It's physical, obviously, but it's also mental as well, to understand what's going on, to learn in different ways, to work under pressure, even if you're not in an actual fight, you're sparring, even if you're just training, you've still got that pressure of someone's hit, even if you're holding pads with someone's hitting that pad as hard as they possibly can. Like you're not careful, it's going to go through the pad, you're going to hurt your arms, you're going to take one in the face. That's that pressure, and dealing with that adversity, even on a smaller scale like that, is really impactful for your life. Because if you go and have a hard workout 6 to 7 in the morning, and then you've got a hard day working on your business, working in your business, working in the office, it's gonna feel much easier because of doing that. So that's why I think some of the reasons why it's super, super important. And I've just motivate myself to go and work out when we're done.
I'm right there, especially all this quarantine and everything. My wife is like, we need to get like a punching bag where you can just put it up in the house.
Yeah, I got one.
I'm like, we're in a small 1-bedroom apartment. There's no way to put that.
That won't work right now.
Yeah. That's super cool. And another thing I want to ask, I see you very active on LinkedIn, and I want to ask you, what type of role does social media play in your business? How important is it, and how do you utilize it?
I think we have to be very careful with social media. Actually, there was a long period where I wasn't on any social media at all. It came from in some ways experience when I was in the Philippines, because it wasn't really available so much there. That was like 2011, 2012. And just being away from it gave me much more time. There's no distractions. You won't go down a rabbit hole. And I think it's even more important now, generally, and it's even more important right now with what's going on virus-wise, because there's so much out there. It's so easy to go down these rabbit holes of fear, especially if you put that into you first thing in the morning. There's so many people that get up and look at their phone first thing in the morning before they even get out of bed. And so what are you putting in there? Because what's in our mind is really fertile soil. So whatever you plant, you're going to get more of. So be in charge of that. Make sure what's going in is what you want to come out. Because if you put some stuff in the morning that doesn't feel good, even if it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel good, it's going to grow. Even if you feel like it's not impacting you, it is. because even if it's just neutral, it's still not positive. It's still not growth for you. I think that's, for me, that's the most important thing about social media, is be really careful what it is. It's easy to get sucked in. But on the other hand, yeah, it's massive. Is it going to be a part of our life for a long time? Yeah, absolutely. There's so much value to come from it, because that's where people hang out. And you want to find out who your people are. You want to be intentional about it. I think that's the key difference, is being intentional about what it is that you're doing with your time on social media. Who do you want to interact with on LinkedIn or Facebook or anywhere else? And so I think it's really vitally important, but it's more vitally important that you're intentional about it, because we can reach a lot of people. We can help a lot of people that way. And now, one of the things that you showed me, Jeremy, which I love, was the distinction between the old and the new. And that just really jumped out at me. It's like, because we know these things, but it's really important to make the distinction, podcast and a new radio, for instance. So that thought process is like, oh, it's really helpful to think about it that way, because there's very many options for us in media now, and we have to look forward to what's the best way that we could help people, what's the best way we can maximize. So I think absolutely, yeah, it plays a huge role.
Awesome. Yeah, it's super cool. I'm glad you brought up the old and the new, because it even slipped my mind for a second. So if you guys don't know what he's talking about, he actually read my book, 2020 7-Figure Marketing Strategies. I'll put a link in the description below. But yeah, it is, especially at a time right now. We got the virus and the quarantine. It's like, man, we're all trapped, told to stay in. I was like, we could let a time like this separate us, or we could use a time like this to actually bring each other closer as a community. And social media and platforms like Zoom, and it's able to bring people from my business sense. It's brought us closer than we've ever been, which is really fascinating when you think about it.
Yeah, it really is. I love this concept, because I actually was working with a client this morning, and I had like a bit of an aha moment, because everyone is forced now to be much more on Zoom, to be connected virtually. And it just shows, when you go all in on something, you get an exponentially bigger result than if you're just dipping your toe in. Because when you go all in, you're like, that's it, here I am. You can't see anything else. You're immersed. It's that immersive experience. And all of these different new ideas and creativity starts appearing because you jump all in. So that reminder of that principle, for me this morning, was really a big deal, because just like anything, you have to dive in to get the result. If you just put your toe in, your level of commitment is going to be commensurate with the level of your result. If you're dipping your toe in and saying, I'm just going to give 20% of myself to this, and you're going to get 20% result. And then when that 20% result comes out, you're like, no, that didn't really work. I didn't feel good. Hey, there's nothing wrong with testing and understanding, but just be very intentional about that. You're not going to get a good result unless you dive all in. Access all your potential, make big action, and then you'll get the result you need. But that was just a real reminder that jumped up this morning, right? Because people are figuring out how to do stuff because they're all in, because they have to be. Don't wait for the environment to tell you to be all in. Do that for yourself. Hey, that's another real big part of coaching as well. It's creating in the environment that allows you to move forward, removing that comfort zone. Right? What's happening in our environment overall is a lot of that comfort zone's removed for people. Great, massive opportunities.
That's right. Super cool. And oddly enough, even though I'm not really in the financial services world, I kind of am now, since our marketing company's more niche there.
Yeah.
But I've had the pleasure that my personal mentor, a guy named Steve Wong's actually a financial advisor, and I've been mentored by him for the past 6, almost 7 years. And one thing he taught me, and I think it's cool that you brought the point about going all in and not just, sticking your toe in the water. A lot of people, they try to do these little tests and they can't get the result. And just looking at things from the finance standpoint, one thing Steve taught me was, everything's predictable in larger numbers. And it's like flipping a coin. You know, you could flip a coin once. It's like, oh, it landed on heads. And you flip it twice, and you know it lands on heads again. And if that's all you did, that's all you tested, you'll think, oh man, you flip the coin, it lands on heads 100% of the time. But do that 100 times, you're gonna realize, oh, it's actually more 50-50. But until you go all in and take the massive action, you never really know what's out there. And that's so applicable to any business, any industry. You know, in marketing, we run a ad campaign for 2 days and get no results. We were like, oh man, I didn't get any results. This campaign doesn't work. Let it go for a week, week and a half, and it's like, oh man, we made $20,000 off this campaign. But it's like, if you stopped after the first 2 days, you're like, oh, well, I was just testing the waters, didn't get the results. But once you go all in, you really start to see the bigger picture. And that's where that whole perspective and that feedback and everything that coach provides is so useful, it's so helpful and vital. But coming up to my favorite part of the show, we're actually going to play a game called Elite Instincts. And basically the way it works is I'm going to say a word and you have to respond back with the first word, ideally one word, the first word that comes to your mind. All right?
Let's do it.
All right. First one, power.
Money.
Sales.
Fun.
Tony.
Robbins.
Saw that one coming. Sports.
Game.
Crisis.
Opportunity.
Peace.
Love.
Social.
Media.
Inspiration.
Power.
Horrific.
Opportunity.
Movies.
Awesome.
Marketing.
Interesting.
Nick Davies.
Coach.
There it is. He is the coach. If you guys want to hear from Nick, I really encourage you guys to reach out to him, you know, and just see how he can help you. I know he has a lot of things going on, but I'm tell you guys about that. But he has a lot of things that he's actually able to use to help you just start to get that awareness. But there's nothing left to do today but to roll out the red carpet to you, Nick. And I want you to let everybody know what you have going on, what they should be keeping their eyes out for. Let them know about you. What do you have in the process?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. That was fantastic. Yeah, lots of stuff going on, right? It's about the opportunities that are available right now. You know, I believe we need to pour into relationships even more than ever. That's what things are about right now. You know, step up as a leader. There's tons of opportunities here. Be the one that's at the edge. Be the one that's taking risks. Be the one that's bold. It will all come back to you. I promise. That's the way it works. That really is. Right now, the way that I'm doing that is offering a lot of opportunities for free webinars. People that want to come online and want some strategies, want some mindset tips of how to be better leaders, how to lead in this environment, and also can tailor that for particular companies or businesses that are looking for specifics. That's how I'm pouring in right now. And yeah, to your point around awareness, it really does start with that. And one of the tools that I use, which is super powerful, is something called the mind scan. It's about thinking. It's showing you your thought processes right now. How does that pop up for you? What's the MRI of your mind, and how can we get that out? And so I'd like to share a resource with your listeners, Jeremy, that you can go on and get that. It's a $500 value, but it's complimentary to anyone listening to this podcast. You can get that at onemansbalance.com/free mind scan. So onemansbalance.com/free mind scan. And One Man's Balance is just a website I have where I kind of share a bit about who I am, and it's more about sharing information on there. But go to that link and you can take a mind scan, see what you think. You'll get some output from that little summary, And then if we want, we can book a call and I can discuss it a bit more with you. So there's that opportunity. But I think right now, the most important thing is everyone to remember that, hey, bottom line is 90% sure that if you're listening to this podcast, you're a leader. Even if you don't think of you that way. If everyone has influences. Hey, I was working with a client yesterday who told me about him doing some deep work for himself and how he's sharing that with his friends around him. He didn't even think about it as anything. It didn't feel like a big deal to him because he was just talking to his friends. But you know what? It's the trickle down effect. It's the ripple effect of what the work he's doing. He's leading others by doing that. So just know that you're here listening to this. You are a leader. You've got opportunity to step up. There's more people that you can help. That will feel great. I promise.
Awesome. Super cool. And I'll make sure I put a link down in the description so you guys can get the mind scan. And where can these guys find you online? On any LinkedIn, social media, like Facebook, Instagram? Where can these guys find you?
Yeah, you mentioned LinkedIn earlier. I tend to put a bunch of videos up on LinkedIn, a couple a week, some comments on there as well. You can find me on Facebook as well, but LinkedIn's where I spend most of my time. If you want to check out some of my videos as well, just like little few minutes of little processes and little thoughts and philosophies and strategies that just pop into my mind. I've got a YouTube channel you can check out as well, which is part of the One Man's Balance YouTube channel. So there's plenty of repositories on there. I think I'm up to like 100 plus videos now. So that's always worth checking out. So yeah, you can find me there for sure.
Sweet. And I'll link to his social media channels and his YouTube. Actually, probably part of the ending sequence, I'll probably have a direct link you can just click on this video to Nick's YouTube channel. But I hope you guys have gotten a ton of value from this. Make sure you check Nick out. Do the mind scan. I've done it personally. Then I'll book the consultation with him afterwards to discuss it. And trust me, the awareness that I got from that was just mind blowing. I was like, whoa. I didn't even realize these things about myself. And I've been coached and I've had this extreme awareness. I take the time to reflect. And I was like, man, there's things in here about me that I never even thought of. And then just looking at the results from the test, it's not quite as obvious on how to understand it. So it was vital that I booked that time with Nick to discuss those results so I could understand myself better and learn how to work in my strength zones so that way I could optimize my work ethic and my results. And I just encourage all you guys to do that. But I'm going to have links to everything. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode.